was so frustrated. She was an attorney. She always wanted to get up and be a partner. She worked for this firm. My brother was an attorney too. And she was I guess she was just about to be an attorney, a partner, or maybe just wasn't a partner when she had kids. And there was so much pressure on her every day. You got to keep, where are the billings? You got to bill. And she was excellent prior to the kids. She built a lot. She had lots bringing in clients. They were extremely happy with her. But when she had kids, she wanted to go home at 5 so she could see them. Just see them. I mean, she got at the office long before 8, I'm sure. I mean, long before 9. But she just wanted to see them before they fell asleep. And they were on her case. She was so angry. I remember talking to her, and she was being transformed. She was worried about the kids at the office. She couldn't get home to them. They were angry because she wasn't billing. And finally, my brother, who had been a prosecutor over in, or a U.S. attorney over in Virginia, he said, let me call my buddies. Just go become a U.S. attorney, assistant U.S. attorney. And he said, you're still doing law work, still good law work. It's 9 to 5. It's government. So she jumps over there. She's at home every day at 5:15. You got all kinds of sick leave and this leave and that leave. And she's a first-class attorney. She's going to trial. She becomes a judge. She's a judge now. It's a beautiful path. But she was willing to say, we can't do it the traditional way. I got kids. I have to make decisions accordingly. But so you don't have to say, this is unfair. My husband's able to be a partner, and I'm the one that's being, I hear all this stuff. He should have to pay. Why should he be allowed to stay in that kind of a corporate ladder? I can't. It's ridiculous. You want to be home with your kids. You want to be. You don't want him to be. You want to be there. I promise you. So if you can, work it out now. Come up with different ideas of what you want to be. Pursue it. If you want to be a doctor, be a doctor. Don't back off that. But just be ready to do a lateral where you might take off 6 years. And then when they're in school, hey, you got half a day or more. You can do all kinds of things. Become as marketable as you can be so that all the options are available to you. You can end up like me. I had 3 kids and single before the third one was born. And have to raise your kids. Well, you want to have marketable skills then, I guarantee you. Because you do want to see your kids. You don't want to be working 2 or 3 jobs to keep the nanny in the house. So that's what you guys have to plan. Plan. Be smarter than them. Don't fall for what you hear out there is, I can do it all. We should be able to do it all. Why shouldn't he have to do part of this? Just take charge of your life and do everything you can to become as educated, find this exciting career pattern, and then when and if you have that opportunity to be married, and I know most of you will be, and have children, engage it, embrace it, be thrilled, and work your career, because you know what? That's your second job as soon as that baby is born. That is your second job. And so turn it away from a career, turn it into a job, and make your career your children until the time that you can open up and return and do what you want when they're raised properly. So,
You're talking about, doing the little things like, grabbing lunch for your boss or
yes.
this and that. How do you decipher, though, when you're being used and when you're just doing it because it's the thing to do because your boss, really, really needs it, or when you're actually, being used for that?
Are you getting paid?
Yes.
You're not being used.
Okay.
I mean, now, if you feel that you've just become a lunch girl, well, that's what they want you to do, if that's what they're using you for, move to another job. You don't make a big stink there. You might talk to somebody that you really like, who you're working with, and say, listen, I'd like to, be considered for a position here or there, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But you can't just say, I'm not getting lunches, because that's what they need you for, or they feel that for whatever reason that's how they're using you foolishly. I don't know, you know what I mean? But just being used, I think, is a strong, how they're being used if they're paying you. If you think you should be paid more, if you think you should be doing a different type of work, then that's your job to say, look, I'd like to do a little more. I'd like to work on this project or that project that will pull you out of this area where they could call on you to get the lunches. Or you could be the youngest person. I had a master's degree in mathematics, working in Australia at an accounting firm, and I was getting the tea every morning for everybody and the cookies, the crumpets, and I was running for lunches. And you know what? I loved it because it got me out of the place. I was in Sydney. I was like, hey, this will take 40 minutes. I'll run over here and take a walk around the park, check things out, and then bring the lunch back. I was the courier because I was the newest, I was the youngest person. And so they used me as the courier. What did I care? I was walking all through town. I walked everywhere. The place became like my second home, And rather than take it as a bad thing, I took it as a good thing. And when you're getting people's lunches, you should make a point of going to the office, talking, saying a few words, getting to know the people. And then, you know what I mean? Like, who are you getting it for? The partner or the owner or some senior person that might be a good source, a good recommendation for you or a good place for you to work in their office. You know what I mean? Make use of it. See if you can turn it into a positive. I know that kid that got me a lunch. When he came to ask me if I needed lunch, he was golden. He would have been the last one to lose his job in my campaign. The last one. Because I was just like, oh, my gosh, who is this? I wanted to hug the guy. I'm dying. So maybe what you should do in that case is pop into the office. I'm headed out for lunch now. Anybody want anything? You know what I mean?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Katie Richter. I'm from Truman State University, and my question is it's not really deep, but first off, I wanted to say thank you so much. You have been so encouraging today, and there needs to be more women who are outspoken like you, grooming us as women to be the women that we should be and can be someday. So thank you so much for that. You've been so. Like I said, it's not really deep. Can you just maybe share an example or two where maybe you have been in a position where a male in your office has kind of been demeaning to you because you're a woman, and maybe he's been vocal and said, you're a woman, know your place, or maybe in his attitude towards you, and because that can be very discouraging and discounting to you and the efforts that you're trying to put forward in your position to try to grow up the corporate ladder.
Yeah.
So how did you respond to that internally and externally?
It happened a lot.
Yeah, because that's something I really fear going into the workforce.
I'll give you just a couple of examples quickly. One, my brother Pat was thinking of running for president. And this is his first time around, probably 92. And he asked me, I was in California, and I didn't know he was going to run for president. He mentioned once, and I was like, yeah, what? Okay. And I went back like, okay, I just had 3 kids, I was busy in my life. And he called me and said, will you come back for a meeting? Because he wanted me to run his campaign or be involved somehow. And so I went back, and we were meeting with these well-known conservative fundraising gurus who also ran campaigns. They did everything from the South. And there was a team, and they wanted him to run, and they wanted to run his campaign. And I'm invited to this meeting in his living room, okay? So I'm sitting there, and they're making a proposal. And finally they said, and Pat, you can't have a woman running this campaign. And I speak up, I'm almost a wet woman, because I had not talked to Pat, And he says, you can't have a woman, especially not a sister. Women just get emotionally involved, and it's ridiculous. You can't have them in charge. Well, I got my back up, and I said, I don't know what I'm going to be doing, but I know they ain't getting anywhere near this campaign. What an outrageous statement that was. I was just furious. And they didn't touch that campaign. They got cleared out of that thing right away. So then I have on Pat's campaign that the press is calling in the 92 campaign. We were doing so well, and they wanted to serve it. And they said, do you have somebody who can speak for him? Because he's up in New Hampshire. And so Pat says, you do it. So, okay, I didn't care, but okay. And so I'm on TV as his campaign manager. And the conservatives had a meeting that night. His conservative supporters came in and met with the guy right under me and said, you can't have baby sister doing TV. You can't have a woman. This is ridiculous. It looks mom and popish. It's awful. Well, I just did what Pat wanted me to do. I wasn't planning on this. And I said to Pat, look, there's an insurrection going on here. If you want someone else to do it, I'm trying to, get you elected. I could care less. And he said, the press has been watching Bay, and you know what they said to me? It's Kennedy-esque. So there's your 2 perceptions. The left thinks this is terrific. The conservative men, dumper. The same performance. I had made 2 different performances here. And so so then I just said, look, I want the conservative supporters. I'll keep doing it. And I'll let my number 2 guy meet with them and let them air their frustrations, however. but I'm going to keep doing what Pat wants and what we think is best. And so, you have to take it in stride. And when I was Treasurer of the United States, we had some people who thought they could roll me because I was young and I had hair about here and I looked like I was 18. And I learned how to fire, and I got him fired. I didn't mess around with somebody under me who's giving me that grief, I'll guarantee you. I didn't need him, so he lost his shirt. I moved all of them out of that, I had any kind of attitude like that. I just wasn't tolerating it. But I was in a position then. But when I needed them, like in a campaign, hey, you didn't hear a word from me, Dad, nothing. I was like, fine, I just tried to do the best I could. But their problem was internal, it wasn't me. They had a problem with prejudice. And so the key is this. What is your purpose in that moment? Are you working for a company you want to work for? And it's a good company and you just got a bad seed or a couple apples around you? Then you've got to do what's best for you. And you've got to figure out how you're going to handle this and make a joke of it, lighten up. If they're vulgar and rude and crude, you're going to have to make a decision to move out of it. Either somewhere else in the business, you might go talk to somebody, or just walk on out the door and get another job. You know what I mean? But you decide. Pick your battle. You want to fight because the guy's, got Playboy, reading Playboy every day, and you're over here and he's making crude remarks. Just put music on in your ears. Just let's not fight for such a stupid thing. But when an opportunity opens up, you fight for that job. You see what I mean? Pick your battles. You're welcome. Well, the key is this. What's the issues that's going to drive you? What makes you, raises that kind of real energy within you to really pursue something? And if it's feminism, if that's something that you're really examining and looking at, then you address that. You come up and you figure out a way that, I've had students constantly say from the feminist crowd, well, you are a feminist. And I say, I can tell you anything right now. I am not a feminist, get it? That's one thing I won't let you call me. And they'll say, why? You've done this, and you for equal rights. Of course, everybody's for equal rights. Come on, guys, and for equal pay. Of course these things. But a feminist, to me, they are so adamantly pro-choice. They are pro-abortionist, totally. And a lot of people are pro-choice, but they are just militantly pro-abortion. And I will not have anyone even suggest that could be something I would consider acceptable, much less agree to. You know what I mean? So I move away. I'm not one that goes out there and says feminism this, and I give a whole speech about feminism. But my position is they screwed up. That second wave screwed up. You really sold a bill of goods to women, and you messed up millions of lives, and lots of people have died because of it. Little babies have died because of your nonsense. And I'll go right at it. But I'm taking on a very specific movement of now. And then I'll say, well, there's third wave. Well, could somebody define this before I have to debate it? Guys? You seem to be uncertain. Now, who are your leaders? Who's the leader of the third wave of feminism, okay? And what are your 6 top principles? I don't know what they are, and they don't exist yet. So that's where I have a hard time. I'd rather women watch me on television talking about things that I care a lot about, life or immigration or the debt, the size of government, or the war. That to me says I'm as equal as anybody. You can put any man up against me. I'll take him right on. I'll debate him, and I can beat most of them, and beat all of them some days. You know what I mean? That to me is the statement. Is not, I'm going to fight with you over this and this. I'm up here. I think one of the things conservative women have lacked is role models. The role models are feminist liberals. So you think, hey, I don't have any path this way. There's no one over there. Where are they? And so I would like to as much as possible, show people that there are conservative women out there, and they're good people, they're smart people, they're passionate, they have everything that any feminist woman has, but just from a different perspective and probably more. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Does that answer your question? See, I don't get into all this.
Is there a difference between showing and being able to state it, though? Like, that's what Joseph Phillips says. Maybe we should talk about the race card from a conservative standpoint, just because it is still a psychological implication in the voting process. And
well, yes, if you think is that something that drives you. Like I don't spend a lot of time on
Right.
this because there's, the country's about to go off the edge and get in complete financial, bankruptcy. And I would like to retire one day, so I'm very focused on this. Oh my gosh, life. That's something that drives me. I have 6 or 7 issues that drive me. I think the feminists have lost. I think their day is over. I think they have failed. I think American young people know that. I go to college campuses now, and they're the first to say, "Hey, that's not my kind of feminism." Well, I guess if you guys aren't claiming it, why should I be talking about it? See what I mean? But that doesn't mean you can't. That doesn't mean that you aren't onto something. Because there are people out there, conservatives, who think that race is something, and we go to them. When an issue comes, we go to them, and they can make the position from a conservative point of view. And that's very healthy. Just like on the war, we go to different people who can make the conservative argument for the war. We go to others who can make it against the war. And we should have conservatives who make it on the feminist side. And I do. I'm called on often to debate feminists. But I don't spend nights thinking about how I'm going to raise this. That's just... I think they've lost. I mean, when you have, what is it now? I've seen twice now, 2 consecutive years, over 50% of young people are pro-life. Well, if they're losing on that, man, there's nothing left. And now this whole movement is to have children. I mean, you have 40 and 50-year-old women desperately trying to figure out a way to have children. They missed the boat because they bought into what they were taught. And now they realize, my God, I want to have children, So I don't. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but I'm not the person to do that. However, if the issue comes up, I will be glad to go on television and address it. But I'm not one to raise that one. I'll raise other.
Hi, my name's Amanda Swiska. I'm from the University of Missouri, and you talk about picking your battles a lot. And when you were first starting out in your career, how do you decide what battles you should choose? Because I feel like when you're younger, it's not very many.
That's a very good rule. I like that. When you're younger, you're there to learn. You are there to say, this is an opportunity here. As I told my son, he wants to have his own business one day. And you should take as many little jobs as you can and learn everything. Because all that's going to apply one day. And the more you know. And so my feeling is, as a young person, get yourself in a position to learn how to watch people. When I was Treasurer of the United States, I would watch Don Regan at every senior meeting. I was 32. He had been head of Prudential and was now the Secretary of the Treasury. I'd watch how he handled meetings, how he addressed people. He obviously was an extremely smart, talented, successful man. I can learn something. So I used to just literally watch. I used to watch how he dressed. My husband didn't buy into it when I started buying him clothes like Don Regan. But literally, because I just thought, okay, I can learn something here. Put yourself in a position that says, look, I am young. I've already finished school, or I'm not yet finished school. What can I learn from this experience? What can I take home? What can I add to my resume? What job description can I now say I've done that I didn't do last year? Who have I met that can now be part of my network to get me another job, to give me a recommendation? You're not into fighting. You're into gaining and gathering and collecting information and experience and individuals that you have now impressed that will help you get to the next place. And if you have a fight, a battle that you've just been thrown your way, think of what's the best way to handle it, in line with everything else you're trying to do. Talk to an adult. When I say an adult, somebody who's been through, maybe there's a mentor in the place that you can say, listen, I don't want to file any kind of formal complaint, but even a friend, and I'm kind of in a bind. Now, don't pick a person who's maybe going to take it to the, make it a big issue, sexual harassment suit or something. Just relax on that. But you know what I mean? Somebody you might be able to trust, or maybe a family member, or someone that you can just say, give me ideas just to bounce off them, so you don't get that frustration that builds up in you and builds up when a person treats you badly every day, every person you turn around and you just tell them all. At least that's my style. And that's not necessarily helpful when you're early on, you know what I mean? I tell you, when I had one of my jobs in Australia, the second partner took me out to dinner. And he was married. And I don't know how it turned out. We were kind of all celebrating. Maybe others went. He was there. And he made the moves on me. I mean, it was disgusting, the whole thing. And he was drunk, and I was just like, what? And this guy thinks he must be out of his mind, you know? But he was a player and all. And I mean, there was two partners, and there was two associates. We did the bookkeeping and the accounting, and I was learning to be an accountant there. It was a brilliant experience for me. And so, you know what I did? I got up, I excused myself on the table, went out the door, and jumped in a cab. I never said a word at the office. He told the boss, and they all thought it was very funny, because nothing had happened. But I wasn't, he didn't bother me in the office. I can forget that. What do I care? He didn't touch me. I just knew where it was going. I was like, oh, he started to, and I was like, out of here. Get out of here. And, you know, and so what? You know, so is being, you know, drunk. What do I care? I was gaining enormous experience and enormously beneficial in my career path in that office because it was a small office and I was able to do everything. I literally learned to be an accountant in the office. So does that help?
Yeah.
Okay, you're welcome.
Hi, I'm Catherine Burke. I go to Ave Maria University.
Oh, sure.
I was wondering, this is kind of going in a different direction,
Sure.
but more so to focus on the guys and it was talked about how sometimes the feminists of today get so involved in like putting the guys down,
Yes.
and stuff like that. How can we as conservative women like try and help them, encourage them to be successful without like compromising ourselves?
That's an excellent question. And you know, it's a lot easier than you think. It's human nature. You praise them. You say good things about them. When they open a door, you say, you know, that's really good. That's very nice. I really appreciate that. You know what I mean? When they succeed in something, in a test or whatever, you say, golly, I could never have done that. That's awesome. You know, you got an A in that. That's, you know what I mean? There's no reason you can't. You do that as a mother.
Yeah.
I have 3 boys. Do you think they all were good at everything? You know, I have all these brothers. You'd think they were all good at everything, the way my dad used to talk. But you know, and so I could see. My first son is just as hardworking, straight A's. You know, if anybody gives him a B+, he heads to the teacher and argues. You know, until they give him an A. The guy gives him A's. I just keep him out of the office half the time. And my second son wasn't quite that way, but I'll tell you, in math he couldn't touch me. I was a mathematician, so I spotted it. And so I didn't want him to think he wasn't as smart as his older brother. And so I used to say, look, you are the smartest, you are the best in math in this house. You are incredibly quick in math. You know, and I used to praise him. And I used to so and I'd say, Billy, yeah, Billy's smart in this, but I'll tell you, you got the math corner. You know, you know what I mean? Build them up. Find what they do well. He was a natural athlete. And so that was easy. He could tell. But I'd tell Billy, hey, you are an excellent little soccer player. Thank goodness Tommy didn't play soccer. And because he had to run circles around Billy. But you build what they do well, you build up. Because the key to a man being feeling right and doing well is that he feels good about himself. It's no different for us, but we have less ego than males. They can't be put down all the time, or they start to think they cannot succeed. And that's so unfair, because nothing has changed except the people around them, the way they're treating them. So and that's why a lot of men are hesitant with girls and women, because they just think they're going to come up short. Because somebody's going to trash them, you know, and they're in a sensitive time when they're young. So build them up. Even if you don't have to marry them to build them up, you should treat people this way. You should tell people when they do well. That's the key. Always try to find them. I used to say, whenever I started thinking badly about somebody, I used to tell myself, this is one of those ways, be a better person kind of week. And so I used to say, if I see somebody and I immediately think something bad, like, geez, what are they wearing? What a crazy outfit, you know? Then I would encourage myself to say something nice. So I would say, that's a great color. That's what I'm thinking. Why would you wear it all over you, you know? But I always would find something, and I'd say it positive. So, and that's the idea. When the guys just tell them good things. I'll tell you, you tell a guy, you girls, you see a guy, and I don't care what the relationship is, and say, that's a great shirt you got on. They're going to wear it 3 more times that week. I mean, my boys would come home and say, you know, yeah, she really likes this shirt. You find something that they chose, and that might be sensitive and say, great tie, you know, you're a great dresser. You know, they might give you a ring the next week if you're not careful. It's That's the key. Build them up, and it's only right. It's only right. Just like we want to have people say good things about us, that relationship is very, very tentative, and it can be crushed easily. And it's been being crushed for many years. Build up your guys, whether they're good friends or somebody you're interested in. Build them up.
Thank you very much. That was a great answer.
Hello, my name's Emily, and I go to George Mason University.
Oh yeah, just 6 minutes from my house.
First of all, I just want to say that your success in all of your endeavors in the corporate world and campaigns is truly an inspiration to young conservative women. I know I'm not alone when I say I would love to be able to have the success that you have in the future. And kind of going off of that, another aspiration that I'm sure I share with a lot of women in this room is the fact that I believe a lot in traditional family values, and I know that I want to have a strong family life in the future. How did you balance your family and your career aspirations?
Thank you for that question. I became a single mom when I was pregnant with my baby. So I had 3 boys. So I had 3 boys, 4, 2, and pregnant with 1 when I became single. So I had to work. My greatest success, bar none, was raising those 3 boys. I mean, not even close. Plus the most fun I ever had in my life. I mean, it is the most exciting thing is to be a mother. Now, sure, it's a lot more challenging than I cared for it to be when you're doing it alone. But doesn't mean it's not a wonderful, worthwhile, sometimes brutally difficult, but totally satisfying. And so I had to give up a lot. I was called, and I wasn't single yet. I just had a baby, I think. And I was called and asked if they could put my name in as cabinet. They have a cabinet position. I told them I didn't think of it. It's ridiculous. I couldn't possibly be in charge of a cabinet, even though it was a minor cabinet position. Minor cabinet. One of the minor departments, I should say. You can't. You have to be there at 7 in the morning. You got to be there at 7, 8 at night. You can't do it. So, but that didn't bother me. I had a kid. I mean, I didn't even think twice. I didn't get off the phone and say, let me call you back. There was no decision whatsoever. I was offered a great TV gig, and it was live. They wanted it live at 7:30 at night. I said, I can't possibly have to. My kids were like 6, 8, and 10. And I said, and they'll all be drug, dealers by the time they're high school. I'm at home, 5 nights a week. I'm not doing TV. Incredible money. And I turned it down twice until they revised it so it was going to be taped at 4 or 4:30 so I could get home with kids. But I didn't even think twice because the kids have to be first. So that's what you have to do. And that's why I opened up and said how important it is that as you pursue your careers, find out something marketable, find out something interesting. Some of us can be home all day long, full-time moms, and be happy and thrilled and fulfilled. And other ones, Michelle and I probably learn, would probably kill our kids right before we kill ourselves. You just can't stare at these kids all day long. There's different. I remember I met a woman who had 7 children, very wonderful family. Her husband was very successful. She didn't even work. And she came up and she told me after a speech I gave, she said, I work because it's the best thing